Hello and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. This is episode 22. And tonight we are featuring Bart Jenkins. Bart, how are you, sir?
Hey, Lenny. I'm doing good.
You know, as we predicted, the pregame was extended. We got a little late start tonight.
That was a pregame, a mid-game, post-game, halftime show.
Extended conversation and good times.
Yes.
And so with Bart Jenkins, you know, we know you as the bass player in town that stands on your upright bass. What kind of bass is that, Bart?
It's good to be known for something, even something as simple as that.
What kind of bass are we talking there, man?
That is it's nothing fancy, and it's a Carlo Rebelli bass that I got from Sam Ash Music back when I worked there years ago. And I bought it for the grand sum of $75.
Damn.
Right off the sales room floor.
All right,
And,
so did it come with the fancy rockabilly flame custom paint job?
No, it was actually it looked nothing like it does now. It was natural wood color. It sat on I used to work there, and it sat on the floor for like over a year, and it would sit there, and every once in a while I'd go over and play it, just goofing around and, you know, having fun in the dull moments of the day. And it sat there so long, like the lights are beating down on it, and it was getting all dried out and wasn't being taken care of, wasn't, you know, terrible conditions, probably just dry, you know, no humidity or anything. And so it was starting to fall apart on the sales room floor. And no names, I won't name anybody. I asked somebody just like, hey, like, what are we going to do with this thing? Like, hey, we can't sell it. Nobody's going to buy this thing. It's like falling apart at the seams, literally. And I was like, you know, like, how much would you take for this thing? Like, if I just bought it, you know, what's the cost on it? And the guy was like, well, he's like, $75. I mean, this thing sold for like $1,000 on the floor, which is, you know, not, as far as upright basses go, that's actually kind of cheap in itself. You know, they're not cheap instruments generally. And I was like, all right, deal. I was like, let me, this is like a Sunday night. We're like closing down. It's just me and him hanging out. And I was just like, you know what? I was like, well, pull my van around and here's $75, and out the door it went. And,
Fit in your car okay?
Yeah, I had a big conversion van back then. It was like G20 Chevy vans, like all kinds of room. I miss that thing. But took it home, and me, with the help of my dad, we like took it apart and like kind of reconstructed it, put it back together, like took it apart, put it back, glued it, clamped it, let it sit for like a week. And then, you know, he did a lot of the work. We sanded it down. Took off I had a like idea. I was like I want to make it all like rockabilly flames, like, you know, make it look like a rock and roll bass, and debated like what color and everything. I was like, you know, white would be cool because the light reflect off it, and like whatever light shines on it will become blue, red, whatever. And he put it back together, and we sanded it down and painted it, and it's actually got a couple layers of boat paint on it. My dad has a wooden boat. And and so we got fancy, expensive boat paint on it, and it was all glossy and shiny, and had the flame decals made, and the rest is history. And I've been pounding and beating on that thing for about 20 years now.
20. Okay, yeah. So I was going to ask you, like, so 20 years old, that bass.
Yep, it's been through hell and back. It sits in my garage.
So succeeded, though, man.
It sits in my garage 365 days a year when I'm not playing it. And it's a freak of nature. I don't do a damn thing to it. It doesn't ever get set up. We actually, Tony from Third Degree Sideburn, we took some when we were trying to figure out a way to put pickups on it, because we tried a bunch of different pickup systems, and like none of them were loud enough for our band. They were all just like kind of like low volume pickup systems. They didn't really have enough ass behind them. And so we took some like regular, just like electric bass pickups off some crappy bass he had laying around in his basement, and took those pickups off and glued them on to the bottom of the neck board, and just made it into like a gigantic electric bass, basically. And those pickups have held on there ever since. The same pickups I have on there now, like we've never touched them. We glued them on there. They've never moved in 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
We set them just right, apparently, because they've seen a million shows and they're still rocking, and it's great. But it sits in my garage, and there's times where I'll go like weeks without touching it, and I'll take it out and it's still in tune, and it's a beast.
It is a beast, man, and it's such an iconic trademark for you. You know, it's really cool, and it's you know, it's a good part of I think the image, right, of some of the projects that you're involved in. You mentioned obviously Third Degree Sideburn, probably one of the newer, older ones you've been involved in for over 20 years, I think, right?
21 years this year. Yeah.
I love that band. I can't tell you how much I love that band. Yeah. Just the energy. I've talked to Lars about this because he's done a couple podcasts with us. Yep. But just the fact that you have, you know, 3 type A personality musicians going at it.
Lots of egos on that stage.
But the energy that results is unmatched for a local Columbus, Ohio-based 3-bass. I'm always impressed every time.
Yeah, I mean, we 21 years, and it's basically the same show it's always been. I mean, some of the songs we play, we've been playing from day one, and I don't know, we just found that energy. Like me and Lars came along later. I mean, he's been in the band, I don't know, 15 years, I think, and the band formed in 2002. Lars joined like 2008. But like right from the beginning, me and Tony just had that energy between us. And we in the early days, we called it atomic rockabilly. That was like the term we gave it. Because we wanted to be a rockabilly band. But like we had that extra energy. Like it wasn't traditional rockabilly. It had a fire to it. And we kind of set that bar from the very get-go. And it's just kind of like where we've kept it. You know, we've always had that energy, and
it's definitely still there.
Yeah, I remember we played a show at Scully's back in the early 2000s, back in the early days, and I'm trying to think. Oh, we were opening up for Lee Rocker from the Stray Cats. This is like 2004, I want to say, at Scully's, and we did an opening set, and John Petrick wrote a review about us later on. And John, I don't know if you know John Petrick's reviews, but they're usually very honest and
unfiltered.
Yeah, there you go. And he basically says what he feels, and good or bad. And he he did not care for our energy level too much, I don't think. He kind of slammed us.
Wow.
We're not the first ones, but we kind of like almost took it as a compliment, though. We were just like, well, like that's not, what he said isn't really a bad thing. He was kind of like, he said we were so loud and hard it was painful, and I thought, well, some people like that.
Kind of the point. Yeah, man.
He said, brought on speed, brains under the seat, rock and roll. But I was just like, well, some people like that stuff.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, that's a great show, and I'm glad you guys are still, I know you all have different projects, but you do sometimes get together, and I think you have at least one gig left in 2023.
We do. October, we're up at Roops in Delaware.
Yeah.
Not sure the exact date. I'm not that organized.
That's okay. I think it's in October if I remember looking correctly.
Yeah.
But that's worth driving if you're not a Delaware resident to go see.
Roops.
That's a great venue.
Yeah. You ever been to Roops? That's a good place.
I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great venue. Josh runs that place, and he does a great job. He takes care of the bands, and they always got a good crowd and good sound system, and that's a good gig. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, along with Third Degree Sideburn, I know you've got but you've got a main project, a main band that you've been running with for a little while. Let's talk a little bit about
The Digs.
Yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah. We're in our 10th year. It's amazing how time flies. So yeah, we're still carrying on. It's so the band started out in 2013. Right now it's me, Fred Gablick on saxophone, and he's been there from the beginning. He's the other original member. And there's been about 20 other members in over the 10 years that have come and gone. It's been a revolving door, but we have a really kick-ass lineup right now. We got Greg Sharp on guitar, and he plays with Bastard Sons of Neptune and Stolen Fire here in Columbus. And he's
Greg is fun.
Yeah,
he's fun to witness.
Yep, he's a good dude, great guitar player, very loud, but I like loud.
Well, the Digs plays, how would you describe the Digs format?
We're not your typical cover band. I mean, we play all covers at the moment, but a lot of them are very obscure. It's like classic R&B, early rock and roll, 50s, 60s for the most part. Very obscure. We're doing something different. We're a bar band basically when you break it down, but we're not playing the radio hits. We're not playing stuff most people have heard or like expect when you go out and see live bands. We're playing a lot of just obscure like Otis Redding. We do some like blasters. We do like a handful of blasters tunes. Oh gosh, what else do we do? Lynn, what do we do?
You do badass rock is what you do from probably what 50s, 60s forward.
Yeah, it's all
you go back
it's all
a little,
like obscure
little further
soul
than
tunes.
most.
Really, is all it is.
Yeah, but it's just good rocking.
Yeah, and we got Troy Kunkler on drums. He's a new piece. He's a jazz dude who's diving into the rock and roll world.
Well, and it's definitely a different vibe than say Third Degree, right? It's I think the mix of your bandmates is very diverse, right? You have, like you just mentioned, your drummer's more of a jazz player. Mm-hmm. You've got just a kick-ass guitar player and saxophone, along with you on part of the rhythm section with bass, thumping on that.
It's different. It's kind of a spin-off of Third Degree Sideburn, but it's more like R&B influence, like classic R&B, blues, soul.
Stones, the Rolling Stones.
We do at least one. I got to do at least one Stones tune. It's required. Yeah, I mean, it's all influenced. Classic soul really is really where it comes from. Yeah. It kind of started out as a rockabilly thing, like 50s rock and whatever, but it's evolved over the years. Now it's more R&B influenced, like classic R&B, and the saxophone plays a big role in it. It's drenched in saxophone.
For sure. Yeah, and it's a good time. It's a very good time.
Yeah, but I'm excited about the current lineup. It's catching fire. It's
the Digs.
Yeah. We got some shows coming up. Hold on a second. Let me pull out my hand computer and look up the dates here.
Yeah, so from the end of August of 2023, we can still catch the Digs.
Yeah, we're let's see. We got Private Party on the 5th, 16th. We're playing at the Copper Penny out at Las Vegas. No, we're not playing Las Vegas. Copper Penny out Buckeye Lake.
That's a fun place.
September 16th, 22nd, we're at El Dorado's. They're in Clintonville, Beachwald area, High Street, Morse Road.
Great venue.
And,
great music.
29th, we're at Local Roots in Powell. September 29th. We got some other shows, but you can check us out on Facebook. We got stuff coming up.
The Digs.
We're on fire.
Yeah, man. And so is your bass.
Literally.
Awesome. Now you're also I've seen posts of you, and I've been to the venue I think one time, but looking at 40 Deuce, right?
Yeah.
That's a venue in the Easton area, and we can see you playing the infamous rockabilly
Yeah.
flamed bass that we talked about earlier. How did that come about for you?
Good question. So they opened up right before COVID hit, I believe, like fall of 2019. That would have been. And they actually contacted me about playing, like, they described it to me as this burlesque show, and I didn't really understand exactly what was going to be taking place here, and they pitched it to me, and I kind of passed on it. I had other stuff going on, and I couldn't really commit to it. But then like COVID hit, and the whole world changed and wiped everything out, and then. So it's like spring of 2021, it kind of came back around, and Patrick, the main bass player they had at the time, or still is, he's still there full time. He contacted me just as a fill-in guy, just to substitute for him when he couldn't play. And so I jumped on board, and it was way more than I expected. Like the way I imagined it when it was first pitched to me, like I thought it was just some small-time show, like nothing to write home about so much. But then when I went and saw it, I was just like, holy crap, this show's way bigger than I expected. It's
true burlesque, right?
Yeah, there's really nothing like it around. It's very, I kind of feel like I used to live in Las Vegas, so it feels like very much like a Las Vegas type show to me. Very, very, high production and big sound system, lights, big stage. I mean, it's a really fun gig to play. It's so they do it every Friday and Saturday night, and it's over there at Easton. Early show, late show. They do like an early dinner show, and then there's like a nightclub show later on in the evening, and it's super fun. I look forward to it every time. It's a different gig. I mean, it's.
How often do you play there?
It usually works out to like once or twice a month at least. I mean,
So you'll make a post on Facebook, if you're following Bart Jenkins, right?
I'm heavy on the promotion.
And shameless
Yes.
self-promotion, just like me, man. I do the same thing.
You got to. I mean, it's free, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
Facebook.
people want to know. It's like, hey, when are you playing next? I was like, well,
Let me tell you.
follow me on Facebook. I don't want to, because there's a lot of folks that are interested.
Constantly
to see
begging, like, please come see me.
Yeah, come play, man. Bring your band to my picnic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we do.
It is. It is, absolutely. And so, 40 Deuce, that's got to be a fun night out.
Man, it really is. I mean, it's a lot of high energy. I mean, there's a packed house every time I play there. It's just a super fun gig, and it's unlike any gig I've ever played. I mean, it's all instrumentals for the band. It's upright bass, drums, and saxophone. Just a 3-piece jazz quotation band. Although it's not really jazz, it's kind of rock, jazz, whatever. But we play for the dancers. They have particular songs they dance to, and we play them and they perform. The show lasts about 25-30 minutes. And there's a sprint. It's like when the show hits, it's like bam, 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 and like you get off stage and you're all sweaty and like adrenaline's flowing, and it's like holy crap! Like it takes you like 10 minutes just to come down from the excitement.
Do they rotate the burlesque performances with different companies, or are they pretty much the same?
No, it's
same
all
dancers.
Yeah, it's all house in house. It's all.
That's very cool.
Ivan Kane, he's the guy. He's
okay.
He runs the club. He came here. He's from New York. He had a club in L.A. and he had one in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay, and maybe somewhere else. I'm not sure, but it's world famous. I mean, he's had shows perform all over the place. But somehow he ended up in Columbus. I'm not sure how that happened exactly. But he's got a killer club. I mean, I told him, I was like, this, from what I've seen, this is the best club you've had. And he's like, oh, yeah, no doubt. He's like, He's like, for sure. He's like, you're not wrong. And no, it's really cool. And if you haven't been there, definitely go check it out. It's there's nothing like it around here.
Yeah,
Or
that's good to know.
really the whole Midwest. Really, it's a very cool place. Columbus is lucky to have it.
Cool, very cool. So Bart, I think those are your top three. Is there anything else active right now?
Oh, I'm playing with so Greg, who plays with the Digs, his other band, Stolen Fire. They play every once in a while, so I've been sitting in with them. We got a show up at Roops up there in Delaware again in October sometime. But yeah, that's basically it. Yeah,
Cool.
I think so. Unless there's there's something I'm forgetting.
So how did you get involved, and when, in music?
Man, I felt very musical from an early age. I remember, like preschool years, just like, my brother, I had two older brothers, and they would go to school, and it'd just be me and my mom hanging out, and I'd be like hanging around the living room. We had one of those big stereo consoles with like the speakers built into it, with like the turntable that like sat down inside it and all that. And my brother was getting into the Stones, and like we had these Stones records laying around. I remember putting these Stones records on, like Tattoo You, Emotional Rescue, and like middle of the afternoon. Like,
that is really good stuff.
I was like 4 years old, and like putting these records on, like dancing around the living room, like doing my best Jagger, and like, for like an early age, I was very much into music. My parents, they weren't musicians, but they were very musical. There was always music playing in the car. My mom would sing to me, and they'd like to dance. They would go out with their family and friends and dance on the weekends, and very, very drenched in early rock and roll. And my brothers latched onto that, and I did as well. And like, I just grew up in like kind of a rock and roll household, really. And as I got older, I dived into all the classic rock stuff, and I'm a huge Stones fan because I don't know, I just caught on to them early on, like I said, and they turned me on to like a ton of other groups, like that influenced them, or not really groups, but people, just the early blues artists, and pretty much any genre of popular music. Really, they've been influenced by reggae, country, everything. And it's opened my eyes to a whole other world of like other performers. But it all kind of starts with them for me. But then like fast forward, and my oldest brother had a band when he was in high school called Soul Butter, which is a great band name, Soul Butter. And so he was in a band in high school, and like, I was always kind of like, it interested me. I was just like, oh, that's cool, like have rock and roll band and everything. And that eventually evolved into something else when they got out of high school. And I always knew I wanted to be in a band. I from a very early age, I don't know. We had a drum set in the house. I taught myself how to play drums when I was like 9, 10, something like that. And I always thought I'd be a drummer, but that didn't happen. But my brothers, they started jamming with these guys when they were, like college aged, and I was still in high school. And they would get together like every Friday night and like rehearse like religiously. Like every Friday they get off work and like pile all the crap into the van and like go down to this rehearsal space and set up, and we'd play. And I would just hang out, and I wasn't playing anything. I just hang out, watch them, and just try to get involved somehow. Jump on a microphone, hit a tambourine. My brother would get up and go to the bathroom or something. I'd jump behind the drums and play a song or whatever. I'd find any opening I could to get involved.
Jump in there.
Yeah, like I just wanted to be a part of a band somehow. But they would get together and jam with a couple friends of theirs and guitar players. And it was 2 drummers, 2 guitar players. We had this 2-drummer thing going on. My 2 brothers played drums. And a lot of Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead type stuff, 2 drummers. And they didn't have a bass player, and this went on for like a year. And like every Friday night we get together and jam, and they didn't have a bass player. And so my 15th birthday was coming up, And for months, I was just talking, just like, I'm going to get me a bass for my birthday. I'm going to come start jamming with you guys. Like this is happening. Like, 2 more months, I'm going to have a bass, just hold on. And my 15th birthday came, and that day, me and my parents went down to the string shop there on campus.
That's cool.
And bought a little Epiphone bass and a little PV amp, and that night I went and jammed with them. Didn't know what I was doing. Like I had no idea.
Just thumping away.
Yeah, like, first song, okay, put your finger right here. We're going to do that, and then we're going to do this. And that was like lesson number 1. And it just took off from there. And
excellent. You created your own future with your with vision, visualization, and speaking and moving in the direction that you set out for yourself. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and and having played drums before that, just I wasn't a great drummer or anything, but I knew how to keep a beat and stuff, and that definitely helped me learn how to play bass. Just having that rhythm and stuff, and within a year we were playing out in bars. I was 15 years old playing in bars, and in my flannel shirt tucked in, and my hair parted down the middle, and cowboy boots, and I was ready for the stage. But no, we were so the band was Clubber Lang, which
oh wow.
So I've come to see that there's a new band in town called Clubber Lang.
And dude, I'm telling you, they are freaking awesome. They're one of my
sure
favorite. They're one of my favorite bands out there right now.
But when I first saw them advertised, I was just like, "What?" Like I'm looking at the picture, like I don't recognize these guys. Like who? Like, but the funny thing is, so John and Buzz, who are the guitar players in my Clubber Lang, they still perform nowadays as Clubber Lang. They don't perform all the time, but a handful of shows a year they perform. So there's two Clubber Lanes in town. So hope there's no.
You're sliding that in there, huh?
Yeah, Columbus has 2 soccer stadiums. Why not have two Clubber Lanes?
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
But maybe they could do a show together. That'd be anyway.
We'll have to hook these guys up.
They can form one super group.
I think they're very different.
I'm sure they are. Anyway,
that's pretty cool.
I think
though.
Mr. T could play. Mr. T is just going to come kick all of our asses. It doesn't matter. So.
Probably. Wow, man. So how old are you now? You're getting involved. You're playing bass.
I'm old.
No, like then. I mean then.
Oh, okay. So that was 15 when I started out.
So good for you, man.
And started playing in bars when I was 15, and it just I was driven. I was playing with these guys who were like college aged at the time, and I really didn't have much of a social life in high school. I pretty much my memory is like sitting in my bedroom playing bass every night is really what I did. And, but that's how you get good, right?
Absolutely.
We were playing in bars, and my very first gig was, it was a place called Dow's on High, which isn't there anymore. It's still a bar. I'm trying to think what it's called right now. Hendocks, maybe. It's right there on High Street where right a couple doors down from where the Blue Danube was. But it was like our third show there. That was like home base for us. We play there like every month or something. And like our third show there was like off the hook crazy. Like all of our friends, well, it wasn't really my friends because we weren't old enough to drink, but like all of our college age friends showed up and packed this place. And it was like one of the wildest gigs I ever played. And like it was like my third gig I ever played. But like they shut us down. We played like one set, and the Bart manager came to us during the break, and he was just like, I need to shut you guys down. Like shit's getting too crazy. People are stealing beers. Fights are breaking out. Somebody took a swing at me. He's all rattled. He's just like, I need to shut you down. And we were just like, oh my God. We were just like, well, it's all of our friends. Like, they're all here to see us, blah, blah, blah. And we're just like, can we do like 3 more songs? And he's just like, all right, 3 more songs. That's it. And So we ripped through these 3 songs, and man, it was like Madison Square Garden. That's what it felt like anyway. At least to me, I'm like 16 years old at the time or something, and it was crazy. And we played the 3 songs and quit, but like it was like one of the craziest gigs, like crowd wise, I've ever experienced. And I'm like 16 years old, like 3rd gig I've ever played. And I'm thinking like, oh, it's like this all the time. Like, welcome to the rock and roll world. Little did I know. But my main memory of this show is like at the end of the night, the place is kind of clearing out. And I was outside at the time. I wasn't inside the room when it happened. But somebody stole, I'm pretty sure I know who did it, but I'm not going to say. But somebody walked into the kitchen and took a bag of flour and busted it open and threw it up in a ceiling fan.
Oh, jeez.
So I come back inside and the whole bar is just caked in flour. Like it's just, or yeah, I guess it was flour. It had to be, I don't know. It was flour. But like the whole room's just caked and it looked like it snowed. Like, I don't know.
Like an 80s party?
Yeah. And like, it was just 3rd gig I ever played, 16 years old, like completely impressionable. And I'm just like, oh man, this is my 3rd gig. Like, wow, you know,
rock and roll.
Yeah,
rock and roll's dangerous.
But like, I don't know if I've ever played anything as crazy since then. Like, it's, you know, different show nowadays.
That's a good start, Bart. You got a great start.
I know, it was all downhill from there.
How far from Columbus did music take you then?
Oh man, well, I lived out in Las Vegas for a while. I guess that's as far mileage wise. Yeah, my whole family moved out to Las Vegas for a few years back in the late 90s. And we had a band out there. Me and my brothers had a band out there called Morningwood, which had a great logo and t-shirt. The t-shirt was more popular than the band was.
Do you still have the t-shirt, Bart?
I do. I have a box of shirts in my basement still.
Oh my gosh! Listen, I want to buy one of those.
They're
t-shirts.
screaming for eBay.
I don't think you got to go that far with it. I think you get good money. I mean, I'd love to see what's on that shirt.
Oh, I should have brought one. Darn it!
Oh man!
But it's words can't really describe. But it was very.
Is there
popular.
a logo for Morningwood?
There is. It's I'll just let your imagination wander and you can imagine what it is, but it's a good t-shirt.
It's a boy's dream, that band, I'm sure. You know?
Yeah. It was
memories.
And actually there was another band called Morningwood that like
in Vegas?
No, but like somebody hit it big. I forget, like a few years later, I don't know, everybody takes my band names.
Damn it. We got to see. You got to do a post with the t-shirt.
Yeah, I should. I will.
I'd love to buy one.
All right.
I'll wear it out.
Lenny, I'll just give it to
Beth.
you.
I don't know that Beth would actually. I don't know if she would do that. We'd have to check with her. Depends on how crafty the logo.
You'll love it. I'll just give you one, Len.
Okay, man.
I'll take might have some moth holes in it or something.
I don't care.
It'll be all right.
I don't care.
It'll be a good night shirt for you.
You don't want to know how I sleep, Bart.
All right.
Oh man, that's cool. And so Vegas, that sounds like a good time. Who have you performed with? Like, who, outside of local? I know you've been invited to perform with national, global acts. Who have you performed with?
Well, not there's not a long list, but there's so I play with Terry Davidson here in town. That is a dude you need to get on this podcast.
Terry Davidson. I'd love to. I've been to some of those shows, and you've performed there, but I never met Terry. I don't know Terry, but
he's a great
if you
dude.
want to help pull that together, I think he's an important.
That you could do like a whole like series with that guy. He has stories. That dude has performed with and opened up for some of the biggest names around, and he's been doing it for
years.
A long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta get him on. But he's a really good dude. He's like a brother to me. We've been playing off and on with him for like 15 years, and so we've through him, I've opened up and performed with some pretty cool names. But so we played with in recent years. We played with Magic Dick from Jay Giles' band. We played with at the Athenaeum downtown, and that was really cool for me. So back when I was in high school and like had no social life, I would actually be sitting in my room on my bed, like jamming along to these live Jay Giles recordings. That was like part of my lessons I would teach myself. And but I used to like sit there and jam along to these live recordings of the Jay Giles bands. Those great live albums they had, and like, you know, when you're doing that stuff, you're like envisioning yourself like on stage with them in your mind. You know, like you can picture the room and the crowd and everything. And so all these years later, we got to play with Magic Dick, and it was surreal. Like, you know, be standing there living out like a dream you were imagining when you were a teenager, and like, you know, you're like playing a tune and like, you know, something like Pack Fair and Square, and like I was actually singing the tune, like, you know, and like the time the song comes for the harmonica solo, and like Magic Dick comes walking past you, ripping into the harmonica solo, and it's like, you know, the hairs on your arms like go up. You're just like, oh my god, this is amazing, you know, like rock and roll fantasy camp stuff, you know.
That's cool.
But nah, that was really cool. I mean, and like, you know, it's just neat to meet somebody like that.
It's very cool.
And play with them, and somebody you respect, and you know, really cool experience, you know. And the night before we rehearsed over at Terry's house. We're down in the basement rehearsing, and you know, playing Whammer Jammer with Magic Dick down in the basement. Like it's just like you're kind of pinching yourself, like, wow, you know, this is really amazing to be experiencing all that.
That is very cool.
Then it was like that same summer we played with Mitch Ryder, backed him up for a show. It was like a 4th of July show up in Marysville. And that was really cool, you know. I've always respected him and liked his songs and everything. You know, he's one of those early kind of, you know, blue-eyed soul type, you know, rock and roll guys. But coolest thing about him was we're like doing a rehearsal the night before there at the show, and he pulls up in a car, you know, gets out and walks up on stage. And, you know, he's like 70-some years old at the time. This is like 5 years ago. And first thing he says to us when he walks up, he's just like, "You guys can play as loud as you want to." And I was like, all right, this is going to be a good show. Like, you know, like, man, like, he could have been like nitpicky and whining about everything. Like, he's like, "I got in-ear monitors." He's like, "You guys can play as loud as you want to. I don't care." I was just like, all right, let's go, rock and roll.
Very cool.
So yeah, that was cool.
You know, I've seen you post some things about some performers. So, for example, you know, what's your connection with James Brown? Like, what's up with that story?
It turns out my mom is really good friends with James Brown, or was. At least from my point of view. All right.
That's cool.
I'll tell you this story really quickly. All right, so I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and my parents flew back here to Columbus to visit, and they were flying back to Vegas, and I was waiting at the airport to pick them up. And this is pre 9/11, where you could actually sit at the gate and like wait for your people to come off the plane. And I'm literally sitting at a slot machine waiting for the plane to, you know, unload, and I'm sitting there, and this, like, I can see some commotion, like, around the entrance to the gate, and, like, cameras going off and crap, and I'm just like, you know, what's going on over here? Who's this? You know, and like Vegas, it's not unusual to see somebody famous just walking through somewhere. And James Brown comes walking through with this, like, little entourage. This is, like, 1990, I want to say 1999. And he comes walking through, and I'm sitting there, and like, I actually had tickets to go see him the next night at the House of Blues. I was just like, oh, there's James Brown. He's getting in town. And my parents, they flew from Columbus to Atlanta, then Atlanta to Vegas. So when they caught the plane in Atlanta, James Brown was on their plane, sitting in first class. And So he walks by, and I'm just like, oh man, that was cool. James Brown just walked by, and so I'm still waiting for my parents, and they're like literally the last people off the plane, and they come walking off. My dad's like grinning ear to ear, and he's just like, "Did you see who was on the plane?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I saw James Brown." I was like, "I'm gonna go see him tomorrow night." Yeah, you know. So we go walking through the airport, and like the Vegas airport, there's like a whole nother like section where you got to like take a monorail to get back to like the main hub. And we walk up to the the monorail station, and James Brown's standing there waiting for the monorail, just like we were. And we're standing there, and my mom like bumps me on the arm, and she's holding her little 1990s disposable Kodak camera, 35 millimeter camera. And she's like, "Go ask him for his picture." And I'm just like, he's got a whole entourage around. I'm just like, I'm not going over there. Like, they'll tell me get the hell out of here. And she's like, "Well, I'll go ask him." So she walks over. I'm just standing back watching this, and she walks over and walks up to James Brown, taps him on the shoulder, and he turns around, and they're sitting there talking back and forth, and like I'm sitting there watching this for like 15 feet away. I can't hear what they're saying, but like they look like they knew each other. Like they're just like carrying on and smiling, nodding heads, and I'm just like, does my mom know James Brown? Like this is so weird. Like they look like long lost friends, and like so my mom like looks back at me, and she like waves me over, like, "Come over here," like almost like, "Hey, come on over. I'm gonna introduce you to my good friend James Brown." So I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. So I walk over, and like James Brown walks over and sticks out his hand and shakes my hand, and my mom like jumps back and snaps a picture, and I'm just like like this is crazy, like cool, and So and he didn't really say anything to me. I was just like I'll see you tomorrow night, man. You have a good show. And I slapped him on the shoulder, and that was pretty much the extent of it. But it was so cool. I mean, my mom is like the most selfless person there is. So like for her to do something like that wasn't surprising, but like it was such a cool moment. And I got a great picture, and it's something I'll never forget. And to actually
That's sweet. And I like when you send that picture out on social media, because it's like James Brown, man.
Yeah, it's he's one of the biggest stars there is, right? I mean,
oh, for sure.
The Godfather.
For sure. And I've seen another similar scenario with Chuck Berry. Like, what's your connection there? Like, what's up with that, man?
All right, well, that's another Vegas story. And it's driving the ball down the 2-yard line and not quite punching the goal line. But he was playing in Laughlin, Nevada, and at a casino down there. And some friends of mine were going to be his backup band, because that's what he did. He would travel around, and he never had his own band. He would just hire local musicians to back him up. And so some friends of mine is a band out in Vegas. I think they're still around, the Roughnecks. They were going to be his backup band. And so I was sitting there talking to Rob, the bass player, who also played upright bass. And he was kind of an early influence on my, aspirations to play upright. And we were talking about the gig, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, in fact, because I was just like, hey, man, can I just come hang out, like be a roadie or whatever? Huge Chuck Berry fan, like, can I just come hang out with you guys? Which I did a lot anyways, because I was pretty close to the band. And he's like, yeah, he's like, in fact, he's like, bring your electric bass with you. He's like, because they backed up Chuck Berry like a few years prior to this at the Hard Rock out there in Vegas before I knew them. And I guess Chuck was being kind of grumpy that night, and he actually kicked Rob off the stage for some reason. I don't know the whole story.
Chuck Berry has a reputation of being a little.
He was difficult
uptight.
at times.
Yeah.
And so he kicked Rob off that night. So like Rob was going into this gig, like he might look at me and be like, "Get the hell out!" And so he's like, "Bring your bass with you." He's like, "If he doesn't want me to play, then you're the guy." And I was just like, "All right, sounds good to me." So I got off work that day. I worked at the Monte Carlo out there in Las Vegas. And I got off work and threw my bass into the back of my 79 Firebird that I had at the time, and headed down to Laughlin, Nevada, like in my mind, like fully expecting to play with Chuck Berry that night. Like I was just like, all right, I'm prepared. I've been listening to music all week. Like I was
ready.
Yeah, I was like a backup quarterback. Like you got to know the plays. Like you got to be ready to go in. And went down there and I met up with the guys, and we're backstage, and it was an outdoors show, and they had these 2 RVs set up, one for the band, one for Chuck Berry. And the show's getting ready to start soon. There wasn't any rehearsal or anything. Like, you just show up to this. Chuck Berry didn't rehearse with anybody, and so we're hanging out in the RV, and I'm just like a fly on the wall. I'm just hanging out, and I'm like 22 years old at the time, and living out a fantasy, and so the promoter comes over, and he comes in, and he's just like, all right, he's like, Chuck Berry's next door at the RV next door. He's like, just hang tight here for a little. He's talking to the band. He's like, just hang tight. He's like, Chuck Berry's going to come over here in a little bit and talk to you guys and kind of go over the game plan and what you guys are going to do and what songs you're going to play, blah, blah, blah. And so he leaves it. He's like, I'll be back in a few minutes. So he leaves, and I'm just like giddy, just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like Chuck Berry's going to be here in a few minutes. like this is so cool, And so the guy comes back a few minutes later. He's like, never mind, Chuck ain't coming over. Like, he's like, you guys just head up to the stage. He's like, he's just going to come out, and he's like, just go up there and play like a blues vamp, and like Chuck's going to walk out and just lead you from there. Like, so the guys go up, and that's what they do. They start jamming on something, and Chuck comes out and slams down his foot and tears into whatever Chuck Berry song he was playing, and the band's just like trying to follow along, figure out what the hell he's doing. And so I never did get to play with him, but I got to sit on the side of the stage the whole show and like watch Chuck Berry perform from like 15 feet away and watch the band. But it was funny, man. I mean, he put on a decent show, but after the first song, he like gets done with the first song. He like walks over to Jason, the piano player. And he's like, give me an E or A or whatever to tune his guitar. It's like Jason hits the E or whatever. He's like, like Chuck hits his guitar string. He's like he was like so out of tune, like wasn't even close to being in tune. So that's the kind of show it was. But it was cool. I mean,
very cool, man.
I got some great pictures, and it was. I came that close to playing with one of my idols, and it was cool just to hang out and experience that, and
good for you.
Be close to a legend, for a night,
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my mind, you're one of the Columbus, Ohio greats, man. I mean, it's always a pleasure to see you, whichever project you're in, or sometimes the acoustic guitar. And Bart is out there, right? You'll post a show out there, and I think I made one of those a couple of years ago. But it's always just your musicianship is of high integrity, right? Like I know you work hard on what you do and what you deliver, and it really shows. And and I think the folks that you work with work hard to deliver quality, and it's just really, really fun.
I appreciate that, Lenny.
That's awesome, man.
Really do.
It's awesome, and it's true, and it's it's good to stay in touch with what you got going on, because it's a lot of fun. It's really good local music and beyond, in my mind.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I'm glad that you made the time tonight to come do this podcast episode. I think we learned a lot about you tonight. This is really, really, really cool. It's the whole purpose of getting your story out there, getting to know you a little better, and just being a part of the contributions that you make and that others make within the Columbus, Ohio local music scene. So
I appreciate it. It's cool to do this radio show. I always kind of envisioned myself in another universe, like a Johnny Fever radio guy.
It kind of is that.
It's my other dream that yet to come true, but
Well,
keep reaching
you're
for that
welcome
star.
back anytime, because I know you have a million more stories out there that we didn't
I
get
got a
to.
few, yeah.
But come back anytime.
And I'm always down for shameless self-promotion. So,
Well, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, we do have a cool show coming up. Do I have time?
You got time.
Okay. Ember Solis, who you've done the podcast with,
I do
right?
know Ember Solis.
So the Digs and her band are going to be doing a show at Natalie's. I want to say, God, I hope I got this right. October 26th, I believe. It's coming up. It hasn't been announced yet.
Okay.
but it's coming up.
Oh, that's huge.
It's like a Thursday night, I want to say. It's a weeknight. I want to say a Thursday. October 26th. I'm pretty sure I have that right. We're going to be doing like a sock hop show. Don't quite have all the details yet. We have time, but it's our two bands. We're going to be doing a show, and it's going to be kind of retro feel, sock hop, swingy and dancey.
Very cool.
You know, wear your poodle skirt and
I'm marking my calendar.
get your Danny Zuko outfit out.
I love Ember Solis, man.
Yeah, she's very cool.
You guys.
We just bumped into each other recently, and we wanted to she wanted to put a show together. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
You know, you got to check out Recifest that's coming up September 16th at the Pastimes.
Sounds very cool. I cannot make it that night, but yeah, check that out for sure.
Yeah, Beth is going to be performing, but
Awesome.
it's a mental health awareness event. There's going to be some display of resources and also a lot of live music and a lot of food and fun. And actually, the podcast here, Columbus Local, is going to be interviewing some of the bands that are part of that.
Like live.
It's not live, but it'll be on site.
Yeah.
And the episodes will be published, throughout the next 24 hours or so.
Plain City, right?
Plain City, Pastime Park, September 16th.
Cool, right? Recifest, right?
Recifest, yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Perfect. And Columbus Local is a sponsor, and we're supporting them in a couple of ways. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I could be there. We're playing out at Buckeye Lake that night, so that's a...
Can't be two places at one time.
I know, right? I'm working on that.
That's cool,
Got to find my clone.
Well, Bart, again, thanks so much. Episode 22, Columbus Local Podcast.
Right on, man.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.